We are live. It is the news segment, Better on Draft podcast. I appreciate all of you joining us. If you're not listening to us live, you're listening to us via our podcast. Of course, you can watch us live Fridays, betterondraft.tv or facebook.com/betterondraft. Or you can see the show on YouTube if you want to check out what we look like and see if we all look as beautiful as we sound by going to youtube.com/betterondraft. I know I do. Dan, not so sure. Um, let's go around the horn real quick, see how everyone is doing and what they are drinking. Starting with Dan. Dan, what do you got?
I got the Stolian soda going on, and I thought I might join you here if I feel like I got the old milkshake stout.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it warmed up a little too fast in this room. It's like 10 degrees warmer in my studio than it is outside, like just outside the door. So I threw it back in the fridge, and I actually got the milkshake blonde.
What's
From
wrong with you?
I don't know, but I'm very these flavors I don't understand. I almost kind of wish I had those guys. We did the episode with Two Roots / Rochester Mills here earlier today, and I kind of wish I could ask questions about this because I'm very confused. But trying to get back on track, Wendy, what are you drinking?
I too am drinking the milkshake blonde as my shout out to kick ass women in the brewing industry. When Kim Collins of Guardian Brewing was on our show, she told us about her love of coffee ales. And this was as close as I could get today. So it's a little bit of coffee flavor, not as much as I think a coffee lover would like. But I wanted to kind of throw a shout out to her because she got a really nice write up through Gazelle Sports. Through their run through their Run with Pride campaign. They're highlighting courageous leaders across the state who are investing in representing and advocating for underrepresented communities. And it was a really nice write up. I just wanted to say congrats to her. I cannot wait to go out and try their beer.
Awesome. I was very happy the one time I got a chance to go to Guardian. I went there on accident during their soft opening, and it had amazing beer out there. Saugatuck, that west side of the area, you could definitely make your own little brewery tour. Hitting up like Saugatuck Brewing, Guardian, Harbor Light, I believe, is another one over there.
Mitten,
Plenty of. I'm sorry.
Mitten.
Mitten, yep. Plenty of great beers over on that west side of the state where you don't have to necessarily go to one of the bigger cities over on the Lake Michigan. But Rob, what do you got over there?
Right now, I just got a big ass jug of water and what's about to be in a moment the New Glarus Raspberry Tart. So that's what I got right now. I have to prep.
All right. Well, I wish I was drinking NA beers earlier, so I'm like sober. I'm clear-minded. I don't know what's going on for this news segment. It's probably my first time I've ever been this sober for a news segment in a while. But as always,
here is Robert with the beer news.
Remember, Rob, make last call your best call.
Who's waiting for the day besides me when the projectile vomit happens from doing that?
I don't think so. I think I can't even tell you the last time like I even chugged a beer where like I had like any type of reaction. It's just like, all right, it's beer.
I mean, I got some raspberry out of that.
So
Personally, go ahead.
I have a uvula, so sometimes if I chug, it comes out my nose. Distressing. So I don't chug as often as I did when I was younger.
I mean, this is actually the first time in like the last few weeks that I've actually done this. So I'm still a rookie, even in my old age. I mean, we just got through burying my cousin who fought in the Civil War. So I was alongside with him.
What?
I have so many follow-up questions that I don't want to ask.
That's okay. All right,
I wasn't ready.
What's going on with the news, Rob?
No one ever is. All right, so we're gonna start with this thing that I ran into on Food and Wine, with this group called Brand Finance, which they bill themselves as the world's leading brand valuation consultancy. And they recently released their annual report on the world's top 50 most valuable beer brands. Now, one thing of note before I give you the top 5 is to mention that these figures are valuations and it's not directly based on their beer sales, but instead an attempt to quantify the present value of earnings specifically related to brand reputation. So with that in mind, the report is showing that at number 1 for 2020, which I don't know if you want to call this irony or not, but number 1 is Corona. So they, for the second year in a row, they are number 1 on this list. Rounding out the top 5, going from 2 to 5, are Heineken, Budweiser, Victoria, and Bud Light. Now, on the list, the biggest mover that's on there is Michelob, which moved from 34th to 21st. There is a new addition. There was a couple new additions on there, but one new addition that was on there hitting 49th was San Miguel, which, you know, I'm still trying to figure that one out as to why they would even get on the list, but that's okay. Now, since we're talking about brands, it doesn't look like there's anything in terms of, you know, craft beer holdings that these brands have. And so, you know, on that list, you've got Budweiser that has forever touted itself as the king of beers, but it's sitting at number 3. And then obviously Bud Light is number 5. I guess just a question in terms of what you guys think about Budweiser, and with them being the king of beers, what do you think Budweiser can do to get back to number 1? Or maybe is there something that they need to stop doing that might actually make them with a higher valuation than where they are now?
That pissing off the people that aren't drinking their beer.
That's a good point. Yeah, stop making fun of people who don't like it. Maybe they might try your beer again.
Well, we're looking at Budweiser as again as a brand. So where there's Corona, there's also Corona Light or Corona Especial. Like there are other Corona. I don't know if they're on this list. So you know you're talking about Budweiser as almost as if it's synonymous with Anheuser-Busch InBev, which it is. But in the same sense, Anheuser-Busch InBev owns Corona in a lot of markets. So
I think it's just that the U.S. is the only market they don't own it.
I think it's North America.
Or North America.
I don't know for sure. It's either the U.S. or a combination of U.S., Mexico, Canada. But yeah,
let me ask you this. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Does this include all the seltzer brands that all these companies are pulling out right now?
It's only the beer. Like this this is a brand, like Miller Lite is on here. Guinness is on here. So it's not talking about Guinness, coffee, nitro, whatever bullshit that they have. Coors Light is on this list. Brewdog. Like there are a lot of brands on here. So, you know, it might consider Bud Light and all the things under it that are labeled Bud Light Seltzer, Bud Light Lime, Bud Light Carrot, whatever they have.
Well, that would explain the move of Michelob and Corona being at the top, with those two being like the easiest seltzers to drink, especially if you're doing like you like to do with the keto, Ken. That could explain a lot of that.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't necessarily discuss on the system itself everything, like what it includes, what it doesn't include, unless we pay for it, because there's a paywall, of course, on this website.
Paywall.
Where isn't there one these days?
I think there's definitely value into what you're saying, and it might be true. But whenever I see these types of things, I always remove myself from the hierarchy. So I don't think it's Anheuser-Busch. I think it's Budweiser. Because again, we've talked about it, and I've said this on the show, 260 episodes, 300 episodes ago. Bud Light is an anti-Budweiser. Like these beers are in competition. So when, Wendy, when you say like, they shouldn't, or Wendy or Dan, one of you guys said it, that they shouldn't shit talk about craft beer or whatever craft beer that they're purchasing, the brands themselves are in fights with each other because they're still trying to win market space. So sure, Bud Light's competition is Budweiser and Bud Ice and Miller Lite and Coors Light. Corona, it's the exact same thing. I don't know. For these types of lists, it just shows what a lot of money can get you.
And I mean, hey, Corona's got Snoop Dogg doing commercials now.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's adding on to that valuation as well.
Snoop Dogg's the new Shaq. Isn't everything?
I mean, as much as you see with the commercials that Budweiser and Bud Light does, and I mean, it may not be another thing where Budweiser didn't really do a Super Bowl commercial last year, so not being out in front of the people where the majority of people are watching a TV and waiting for that commercial, that probably struck some of a little bit of their valuation as well. I mean, I don't know, but there's a few things. I think it is kind of going into what Wendy is saying, is that there were a couple of those years where Budweiser kind of spent money on commercials making fun of craft beer drinkers, and you've got Bud Light making fun of mead drinkers in their
Dilly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forgot all about those commercials.
So there's those as well. And I mean, it could be, maybe it is a marketing thing. Maybe it's just, that, with the amount of Budweiser that gets drunk here doesn't necessarily translate to what happens in Europe or Asia. I mean, that's why you see on this list, you've got other companies like Kirin and Asahi that are on here. That Kirin is 8th, Asahi is 10th. So you've got a few that are outside of the States that are probably taking up a bit more of that valuation that Budweiser could have if those weren't there.
Yeah, but let's look at the top 10 real quick before we go into the next article. Corona, outside of North America, owned by Anheuser-Busch. Number 2 is Heineken. Number 3, Budweiser. Number 4, Victoria. Number 5, Bud Light. Number 6, Snow, which is owned by Anheuser-Busch. Number 7, Modelo Especial, owned by Anheuser-Busch. Number 8 is Kirin. Number 9 is Miller Lite. 6 out of the top 10 are Anheuser-Busch. Like, it's just...
So can they actually be mad at not being number one?
I mean the products that they own are 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9. Like they're looking at it and probably wondering how is Heineken or Victoria or Kirin as high, and they want the top 5 or whatever, but in the end you just can't. I don't know. You just can't get everything that you want, but you're still nearly all of the top brands are still you. So there's only so much that they can do. There's a culture of people who are never going to drink their beer, but there's still, these beers are drunk enough. Like Corona was number 1 in 2020. I'm looking at this list right now, and of course now I hit a paywall. So, thank you very much, Brand Finance, for this great paywall. So that's as far as you're gonna get. Rob, unless you guys have another mention, give me another article.
All right, going to another one. Now this week capped the 1-year anniversary of the Black is Beautiful initiative, which I believe that was on the 1st of June. For those who don't remember, this initiative started with the San Antonio-based Weathered Souls Brewery, headed by Marcus Baskerville, which we did have him on our show. He provided a base stout recipe for breweries who were willing to make it, so long as they donated the proceeds from the sales to local organizations, charities, foundations that support equality, inclusion, and social justice reform. With a year under the effort's belt, it's still going strong. We've got over 1,200 breweries worldwide that have either have made a rendition or continuing the effort by making new offerings. We do have a couple breweries that are local here that are planning on releasing some barrel-aged versions of the beer that they made last year that will be coming out, and quite a few that are planning on making this a yearly thing. Now, the effort not only points towards social justice, but also with the lack of diversity in the craft beer world, which is something we are still dealing with, and also a subject that we talked to Aaron Jose about, documentarian of One Pint at a Time, which will be coming out this fall. Now, as Marcus has stated in an NPR article, he believes there were still only 2 Black brewers in the state of Texas, where there's like 380 breweries there, and he himself is the only Black owner. I guess from your perspectives and all the conversations that we've had from Marcus to shout out to Bruise Brothers for the Culture with Harry, Wayne, and Sasha, and talking to Aaron. In terms of progress, do you guys see that there's progress being made? And is the progress that you're seeing, or maybe not seeing, how can it be improved? I am going to start with Wendy on that one.
So the progress that I see is that we're talking about it now. Whereas a few years ago, this wasn't something that we would bring up as often. So I think that, yes, there is progress. I think there is still a lot more that needs to be done. We need to figure out a way to bring this into not just the beer industry, though, because while the brewing industry, we're seeing the lack of diversity. Part of the reason that we don't have the Black brewery owners, it sounds funny to say Black owner, I think, to say, or the reason that we don't have as many brewery owners who are Black is because they're facing other challenges in different industries in getting loans and getting the equipment that they need, things like that. So it's much more widespread than just the brewing industry. So I think that I don't know how to improve it, basically, without talking about it and getting other people to be more aware of it and doing something.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that Aaron's documentary gets a bit more hold and getting people to see it, because I got a chance to watch it, and seeing the breweries from from the eastern side of the country down to New Orleans, and them having difficulties, and as what you're saying, Wendy, in terms of getting the loans, getting the approvals from the city to even get the locations and be able to get approved. There was one place that had finally got approved for a plot of land, and he still doesn't have a building. It's like almost 10 years later, and he still does not have a physical location. So there's definitely a lot that you still have to go through. So I agree with that there are quite a few hurdles that have to be gone through, but having a conversation and putting it forward it's a step. I want it to be a bigger step, but it's a step. Ken, you had something?
I mean, there's just everything takes a step, and everything the steps. We're not going to resolve racism tomorrow. We're not going to resolve this issue in an hour or on a 30-minute podcast. But as we continue to talk about it, as we continue to promote it, and as I think as the internet is used much more efficiently for this type of news, information, and spreading to get more out there, I think what we saw with the need of the Bruise Brothers or the group in Atlanta that Aaron Jose interviewed is getting the fact that people like Rob, people of color, are into these drinks and into the industry, and they might not tell each other that. They might not tell other people that because they might not feel comfortable getting into that conversation. there's like a stupid meme where you have some type of guy where when someone like a female is interested in sports, and you're like, oh, you like the Detroit Lions, name 3 non-starters of the Detroit like, no, like there's still a lot of gatekeeping in the craft beer industry, and that is going to be, I think, the biggest hurdle that people of color, women, um, in the community to cross over. And it's up to people like me, who probably acted as a gatekeeper years ago, being I mean, I'm I admit that I was a shithead when I was younger. But in the same sense, I'll also admit, like, a lot of things that I say may have been, misunderstood, and I accept full responsibility for it. But for me, like, I think it's the gatekeeping which stops people from even attempting. And once you stop the gatekeeping, I think you're going to have a big flood of people who were fans and friends of the industry just go through. Because sure, someone like Rob may be more comfortable, talking to the Bruise Brothers, being black, and talking to other black people about beer. But we want that crossover because that crossover is what removes barriers. Um, that was my ramble.
Well said, though.
And I mean, it's like I said, is that it has to be talked about. It's just there's definitely a lot of, I mean, I even get it from my day job's diversity day, where people were talking about, just stereotypes and racism and things like that, where people were saying that, oh, I don't want to talk about it because I feel like I'm going to say the wrong thing. It's like, well, we can't sit here and deal with these issues at a 3rd grade reading level. We got to bring shit up.
That's fair.
There is a huge difference between you saying the wrong thing and you dropping an N-bomb. Let's circle back. When we were talking with Wendy, and Wendy brought up something that I said when she joined the show. Sure, I said something fucking stupid. I didn't understand that I said something stupid, and I didn't realize it until she brought it up. But she didn't be like, you're such an asshole, Ken. She was just like, hey, I didn't like this. You should be more mindful when you say something like that. And that's it. Like, you're not going to accidentally say something offensive. You're going to say something offensive, or you're going to say something where someone's going to address you and be like, that's not offensive, but you shouldn't say that. Like, just calm down.
Yeah. Just, motherfuckers, don't tell me that I speak well. I'm going to kick your ass.
Oh, boy.
I got time for one more short. Oh, no, we've only been 20 minutes in. Let's do another article. Unless you guys want to keep talking about this, I don't want to cut off the good conversation.
No, we can move on. And actually, I saw there was a comment from Tito asking if there was a list of Michigan breweries that are continuing to support the Black is Beautiful collaboration. I don't know. I haven't seen a list. The only the one, obviously off the top of my head, the one I know has a new beer is going to be Eastern Market Brewing. It's only because my ass is there like every damn week. So
they're making a new Black is Beautiful.
I don't know if it's a Black is Beautiful, but it is still continuing with the initiative of sorts, because they are going to be giving the proceeds to a local group. But basically, they do have, I believe, another beer that they're going to put out that is going to be, going towards the initiative. So they at least have one. And just like with some of the breweries that are out here that kind of came out with one a little later, like Ascension, I don't give a fuck. Ascension need to make that shit again, because that was one of the best beer. That was one of the best Black is Beautifuls that I had across this country. That was amazing. So they have to make that again. I don't care. I'm gonna go out there.
Then I would really like City Built to make theirs again as well.
City Built can make theirs again as well. Yes, for sure. All right, so we're gonna get to another one here, which last week we had a very interesting court case, and now we've just got another one. This one out of Colorado. just wrapped up after about a year in court. And this was a legal dispute between neighboring stores. It was at Aspen Wine and Spirits and Clark's Market. And now, Aspen's Wine and Spirits sued Clark's Market, claiming that when the grocery store began selling full-strength beer, it encroached on the liquor store's exclusivity rights as the only full-service liquor store allowed to operate on the premises. Now, if you remember back in 2016, Colorado legislators allowed grocery and convenience stores to sell full-strength beer, which kind of gave those stores the ability to finally get away from the 3.2 beer, which we all know is a 3.2 ABV beer. Now, according to a 2000 addendum to Clark's lease, the grocery store was allowed to sell 3.2 beer or an equivalent product. Now, since 3.2 has kind of fallen off, Clark's Market decided, well, we're going to start selling, quote, an equivalent, which basically sparked the dispute. Now, Clark's representation is maintaining that the term 3.2 beer is, quote, language of art and up for interpretation, while Aspen's Wine and Spirits is saying that it's common sense and 3.2 beer is understood by consumers and sellers alike. The county district judge, he made a final ruling which stated that since 3.2 beer is still available on the market, quote, it is clear that the contracting parties understood that 3.2 beer was one thing and not regular. This is not regular beer. Otherwise, they would have referred to them as two separate things in the same paragraph, and in fact, in the same sentence. So basically, the judge has ruled in Aspen Wine and Spirits' favor. They're now putting Clark's Market's liquor license under review because this was going on for 2 years. And Aspen Wine and Spirits also asked for damages regarding the projected loss in sales between 2019 and 2020. They had asked for, I believe it was $38,000 for 2019 and $30,000 or $33,000 for 2020. Apparently, because of Clark's Market's poor sales, that the judge just said scrap 2020, but did award Aspen about $28,000 for 2019. Obviously, the lease is what's in the lease, but for you guys, from a business standpoint, is this big enough that you're going to send the store to court for it?
Now I feel you're missing one very important part of this, is that they share literally a hallway. It's almost as if you were walking in a mall and they were not on the opposite end of the mall, literally the opposite side of the mall.
Well, I mean, that was what I had said. It was that they're the only full service liquor store allowed to operate on the premises. So, I figured that
gotcha.
Is implying they're both in the same. It's basically experimentation and whatchamacallit. Damn it.
Fillmore 13.
Yes, Fillmore 13. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Both breweries you could find on the Michigan Brewery Map app. Go to mibeermap.com.
There you go. So with them being, I guess with them being so close, it's just, I see what Clark's Market is trying to do, and they're trying to build up business. I mean, hell, they didn't even have the numbers to be able to for a judge to basically pay out damages for 2020, even with them selling full strength beer. So it's kind of like, well, damn, just let them sell it. It doesn't look like they're selling it anyway.
Well, there are a lot of I'm going to bring another example so people might be able to understand when there's competition, especially in a multi-unit facility where a singular owner may own not all of the restaurants or all of the brands, but the building itself. For those of you in Michigan, if you've ever been on in Southfield, I believe it's off of Telegraph, there was off of Evergreen, not Telegraph, a Beyond Juice, which is a big chain of healthy juicery, eatery in Michigan. They decided to open up, but they opened up between a Chipotle and a Potbelly. And in their lease at that site, even though they sell products like wraps or sandwiches at, say, the Detroit Beyond Juice, they cannot sell wraps or sandwiches because Potbelly sells sandwiches and Chipotle sells wraps. So in their lease, before they could sign and settle, they had to say, I cannot do that anymore. Now, as things change, if Chipotle were to leave that vicinity or facility, I would look into updating my lease and be like, hey, they don't exist anymore. I want this. I feel like there should have been maybe some updates where the lease owner, like, they should have tried to get more information. But as the article says, a 3-2 beer is a 3-2 beer, and we all know what a 3-2 beer is. So I think in the end they have the right to sue. I don't know how you're going to quantify that. Obviously, they had some type of way to quantify how much they sold versus how much money they lost. Um, but yeah, I can't. You gotta. It's one of those where you gotta protect your business. I would welcome Beyond Juice in this facility, knowing that they're not gonna sell wraps or sandwiches, and then they start selling sandwiches. I'm gonna be pissed too.
Yeah, it's just it is
We run into
just
stuff like this with face painting because we work at festivals, and our company a lot of times has competition. So, but there are certain festivals that we go to where we are able to pay for the right to be exclusive. And if we pay for the right to be exclusive and they let another face painter in, that's going to cut down the money that we're bringing in. So I completely understand. Is $28,000 worth suing for? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what their actual sales were and how much it might have actually hurt them. Because sometimes we're at a festival and it you can handle 3 or 4 other face painters, but at some festivals, if you have one face painter or if you have 2 face painters competing, neither of those people are bringing enough money to cover their costs. So I can understand the is it really worth it to sue? Um, I would say they just had to protect their business, like Ken was saying. The thing that questioned me about that was that their liquor license was being put under review. They weren't violating their liquor license by selling; they were violating their lease. So
right.
I don't think that their liquor license should be put under review, but they should be. They should have to face the consequences for breaking their lease.
Yeah. I think it was basically they were putting it under review, at least the way I was feeling it, was because of the fact that this was a multi-year thing. Like if this was just 2019 or 2020, then yeah, okay, pay to fine. Which the thing is that what I think with the damages is that for a case that went on for at least a year, I'm kind of concerned about the lawyer fees and whether or not the lawyer fees were not going to kill the damage, the reward that you got awarded for the damages.
Oh, it totally will.
So, I mean, it kind of goes into that whole, it's a principle of the thing, and you're still doing something you're not supposed to be doing. But it's like, damn, I just paid like 40 grand in lawyers' fees, which it didn't say whether or not Clark's Market had to pay the legal fees too. So it's like it's not even a wash if that's the case.
This store is stupid though. I mean, we all know 3-2 beer is like impossible to get. Almost no one makes it anymore. So shouldn't they have gone and redone their lease or done something to make this change instead of just being like, oh, who cares? We're going to do it anyways.
I don't think I mean, with Aspen's right there, I don't know if they could have. It doesn't sound like Aspen would have even allowed them to do it. So, I mean, basically it's their other option is that they need to pick up and move. And I don't know if this place is near like a ski resort or something, but it seems like they're probably getting enough business that it's a good place to be. It just can't sell anything greater than 3.2, which, you know, the judge said that, I think it was in the article. I wasn't sure if the judge said it or if it was just pointed out in the article that it said that 3.2 was still available in the market. Just obviously not the 3.2 brands that, you know, they're used to seeing out there and you know, and Wasn't it? There was 3.2 in Utah, wasn't there?
At one point, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they don't have the regular brands of 3.2 that they were used to seeing since 3.2s have fallen off. I mean, if they got to fucking find a 3.2 Kirkland signature, then I guess they better get their ass into Costco and sell that shit.
Yeah, I think the only state left might be like Minnesota that has a 3-2 law in it. Because again, this isn't a law. This is a lease. This is the rules that they have to follow based on um, their site. So,
Right.
yeah, that's gonna do it. Better on Draft the News. Stay tuned. If you're listening live, we're gonna do King of the Hill, which if you do not listen to it, you can find it only on our Instagram TV. I won the last 2 weeks, guys, but we are gonna be going back because now that there's three of you as opposed to just two of you plus me, we'll go and play some beer IQ. So no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Peace.